Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Today is 7th of August. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news for a news segment on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to, and I hope you will find news segment informative and useful. And if so, dear friends, please, if you can, click that like button and leave some commentary. It might help to deal with the extremely aggressive algorithm, especially on YouTube, and maybe we will reach a wider audience. And after the news segment, dear friends, and as always, I will be engaged there in a community chat. If you have any question or you want a certain comment to be highlighted, please use capital letters. That will make it easier to spot your question or the comment. And dear friends, before I start the stream itself, let me address one, I think, important topic, which is that whenever I'm expressing some critical view on certain decisions or the statements of either a Russian president or any other high-ranking official, usually at least one or several members of our community, usually new ones, new members of community, are sending me messages to be a bit cautious and not to risk. And you know what? I appreciate their attention, obviously, but for new members that most likely are new, not just for our community, but for in alternative media in general, for the new members, I will say that probably they are still experiencing some influence of the Western propaganda, based on which fake, obviously, Western propaganda, based on which nobody here in Russia can express opinion freely. No one can criticize anybody, especially government, Putin, or anyone else, which is fake, by the way, fake information, which is nonsense, total nonsense, right? As long as you are a good citizen, free of foreign influence, and your criticism is coming from a good place, I mean, you are good to go. You can criticize anybody you want all day long, and it's fine. I mean, it's nothing special about it, right? But I can understand that people that are new to alternative media still are under this impression that Western propagandists are trying to create, that in Russia you cannot express opinion freely, by the way, otherwise you're going to get jailed or killed or something like that, which is total nonsense, by the way. I can criticize anybody I want all along, and what? I mean, nothing, right? If as long as I said, man, as long as your criticism is coming from a good place, you are free from any foreign influence, you are a good citizen, you're good to go, man. Express your opinion freely, man. It's that's why I said quite a number of times that I think, and I only have to think, by the way, that people here in Russia are much more free than people in the Western countries. And there, I can elaborate on that if if there will be question on this matter. Anyways, dear friends, I wanted to address this issue, by the way, because every time I express some criticism of any decision of the government, I do receive such warnings from members of our community that just be careful, don't risk it. I mean, I'm not risking nothing, for God's sake, right? Anyways, dear friends, let's start a new segment now. And I'm going to start information with this report from a few hours ago that based on information from monitoring services, Kiev regime, Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, with assistance, obviously, of NATO, US, and UK, to be more precise, allegedly launched 12, approximately 12 missiles, Storm Shadow cruise missiles, in direction of Crimea. There was an air raid alert all over the Crimean Peninsula. About an hour ago, maybe a little less, I spotted on one of their Telegram channels, big Telegram channels, a report that air raid alert was cancelled in Sevastopol. But no additional information at this point about what had happened with with these missiles. Were all of them intercepted, or did they reach a target. There is no information on that. Only a report that I see on one of the big channels. It was a Soloviev Live on the Telegram, I believe, that 11 trains from Crimea and towards Crimea are their schedule is delayed, and that's it. Reasons are not yet that clear, right? So we should keep this information in mind while I will go through other news, because I wouldn't be surprised at all if we will find out during the day that this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, with the assistance of NATO, did try to strike a Crimean bridge. Although for this moment, let me be precise on that, for this moment there is not a single report about what had happened with these missiles, and was all of them intercepted, or they did hit their target whenever they was directed, right? So during the day, obviously, if any update, I will share additional information on that. And I think this information is important because this is happening on a backdrop of yesterday's talks between special envoy of US, Steve Witkoff, with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, after which, by the way, during the day, quite a number of statements were made about this meeting, not just here in Russia, but in United States also. And these statements were kind of optimistic, right? But nevertheless, let's go topic by topic now. So TASS News Agency is reporting that that Trump was asked, by the way, US President Trump was asked about his ultimatum, and when he went to elaborate that time for a Ukraine deal is expiring. He also went to say that US President Donald Trump confirmed that the deadline he had said earlier for reaching agreement on Ukraine is approaching its end, but pointed to their very serious negotiations, as he was meaning talks between Witkoff and Putin. He made this statement on Wednesday, yesterday, while speaking to journalists at the White House. So this deadline of Trump, or ultimatum, that is expiring on 8th of August, is still in force. And well, we should keep that in mind, as I said, because you know my take, dear friends, on all this situation. I shared my opinion many times that I think all these talks about Trump sanctioning Russia and sanctioning Russian allies or the trade partners are deception operation on part of White House, and I'm quite sure in reality US, UK, and France, Germany, and others from NATO are planning unprecedented scale of escalation against Russia. And this information that I mentioned in the beginning, that based according to monitoring services, allegedly 12 Storm Shadow missiles were launched this morning towards Crimean Peninsula, is only confirming my concern, right? That's how I see it. Anyways, so therefore, 1 day is left, by the way, before this ultimatum is going to expire, and well, we should expect unprecedented scale of escalation either during the day today, maybe nighttime, and definitely tomorrow and afterwards. To continue, Glad newspaper is reporting that Trump threatened basically again to impose more sanctions on Russia's trade partners. United States will impose more secondary sanctions against Russia's trade partner. US President told the journalists yesterday, you will see much more. You will see a lot of secondary sanctions. TASS is quoting Trump as saying, and let me give you shorter video, dear friends, when Trump was talking about it, even sanctioning China potentially. So that's the short.
Potential secondary military sanctions for
Yeah.
Russian oil. Them having that tariff or sanction rather, or not, hinges on what going forward?
It may happen. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you yet, but we did it with India. We're doing it probably with a couple of others. One of them could be China. Yes.
Yes, so he did not forget to mention India. I don't know why he's this hostile towards India, that supposed to be treated by the West as a partner, right? But nevertheless, he himself is saying in that video that more countries will be sanctioned for cooperating with Russia, including or potentially China too. And but nevertheless, my take is that all these talks about sanctions and tariffs and so on is an attempt of Washington to divert public's attention, and especially to divert attention of the Moscow, right? And visit of Witkoff, in my personal opinion, that happened yesterday was exactly the part of this deception operation that Trump and Witkoff are personally engaged in, and not the first time, dear friends. I remind you that it was a very same Trump and very same Witkoff that were engaged in a deception operation against Iran, right? While they were engaged in talks with Iranian representatives about nuclear program just about months ago, little more now. Very same time, they were orchestrating together with Israel military attacks on Iran, right? And I hope Russian leadership is keeping in mind that these two personalities, Trump and Witkoff, were engaged in a deception personally, and they cannot be trusted, period, right? Nevertheless, let's continue with some more news. And as I already mentioned, yesterday, Russian president personally greeted special envoy of U.S. President Steve Witkoff. I can show you short clip of their meeting. So as you can see, Russian president greeted Witkoff with a warm welcome, isn't it? With a warm welcome. My opinion is that he should not waste time talking to Witkoff. This is a mistake, I believe. But nevertheless, Ushakov made a statement right now. Okay, by the way, we have breaking news right now. I'm going to share with you that breaking news, but let me finish on this matter. I think this was a big mistake on part of Russian side to waste president's time while meeting, with Witkoff, because I'm 100% convinced Witkoff and Trump are engaged in a deception operation. They want to caught Russia off guard from whatever provocations they are planning, and they are planning provocations, by the way. 100%, I have no doubts about it, right? But nevertheless, Russian president greeted Witkoff with a warm welcome. They had a 3-hour conversation, by the way, 3-hour conversation, after which aide of Russian president Yuri Ushakov spoke with the media, and I can give you his statements. I spoke about it in yesterday's second live stream, but not that many members of our community see that video. So therefore, I think it's worth to repeat this news that, President Vladimir Putin and the U.S. leader, Special Envoy Steven Witkoff, discussed the Ukrainian crisis. At the meeting, presidential aide Yuri Ushakov reported, if we name the topics, then first of all, of course, it is a Ukrainian crisis. And the second topic is the prospects of the potential or possible developments of strategic cooperation between the US and Russia. I mean, this is about strategic cooperation between US and Russia. US is directly engaged in the killing of the Russian citizens. And for 3+ years at this point, US is directly engaged in the killing of thousands of Russian citizens. And Ushakov is talking about some prospects of strategic cooperation between US and Russia. I mean, maybe you understand, dear friends, what the hell is going on here, but I clearly don't. This is not the way Russia should treat US, by the way, US leadership. Exactly because thousands of Russian citizens have been killed due to US involvement in this proxy war against Russia. My personal take on the matter. But let's continue this report from RIA Novosti. So in particular, President Putin conveyed some signals to the United States on the Ukrainian issue and received similar ones from Donald Trump through Witkoff. Ushakov said, and we have some additional quote here. The situation now is that our president has a full information that is our signals from the President Trump, and Trump has not yet been informed of the results of this meeting. Therefore, I would refrain for more detailed comments. Let's see when Witkoff can report on the conversation that took place today to Trump. After that, obviously, we will be able to supplement my comments now with something more substantial, said Ushakov yesterday, right after Putin-Witkoff meeting to journalists. And dear friends, as I said, we have a breaking news right now that is coming also from Ushakov, I believe, that is, which is that Russia and the US have agreed on a meeting between Putin and Trump. This is definitely breaking news at this point. So Russia and the United States have agreed on a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump in the coming days. Presidential aide Yuri Ushakov stated just now, by the way, literally minutes ago, at the suggestion of the American side, an agreement was agreed in principle to hold a bilateral meeting at the highest level in the coming days. That is a meeting between President Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. He said, according to Ushakov, their parties have started working on their summit. The next week is designated as a benchmark, but it is difficult to say how many days their preparation will take. The venue for the meeting has been agreed upon. It will be announced later. So, well, breaking news, by the way. My first reaction is that this is also a deception operation on part of Trump. I think there's going to be no meeting between Trump and Putin, by the way, despite the statement from Ushakov that there was some agreement in place. There's going to be no such a meeting, by the way, I think, because I have no trust in U.S. leadership. I have no trust in the leadership of Western states. They are lying constantly. And I think Russian side should be extremely, extremely careful and focused on potential threats that U.S., UK, France, Germany are preparing and will generate in upcoming days, and also obviously their proxy terrorist regime of Zelensky. I think in nearest hours, by the way, in next few days, something is going to happen on such a scale that no one would even remember about this preliminary agreement to organize a meeting between Trump and Putin, because that topic will be out of conversation. Maybe I'm too skeptical, by the way. Maybe I'm too skeptical, but yet again, I have no trust to anybody that represents collective West at this point, because I have no reason to trust them, right? And I don't think any of you have a reason to have a different attitude towards the Western so-called elites, right? But nevertheless, let's continue with more news. So Trump held a conversation with Zelensky yesterday, after or simultaneously with meeting between Putin and Witkoff. Details of a conversation between Trump and Zelensky are not really known, just the information that they had a phone conversation. My guess is that probably Trump and Zelensky during their conversation finalized their provocations that Zelensky will sign up for in upcoming days. Provocations that US, UK, France, Germany, and other NATO member states have prepared against Russia. And obviously, to maintain plausible deniability, all hostile actions of the NATO will be claimed by Zelensky's regime. And probably that was the main topic of discussion between Trump and Zelensky, and maybe Trump yet again demanded from Zelensky, Moscow and St. Petersburg to be targeted, as he did it during their previous conversation on 4th of July. And Zelensky himself, by the way, yesterday went to state that he rejects any limited ceasefire with Russia. So Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky has rejected any limited ceasefire with Russia, insisting that Kyiv will only agree to a complete halt of hostilities. His statement came in the wake of report from the Bloomberg that Moscow planned to propose a pause in air operations. And dear friends, this report that Moscow proposes or plans to propose or agrees on a partial ceasefire is coming from a Bloomberg, Western propaganda outlet. None of the Russian media outlets, by the way, that I'm monitoring says a single word about a partial ceasefire. Literally none of them. I did not see any reports on that whatsoever. I don't know. Maybe behind the closed doors, Moscow actually proposed a partial ceasefire. Maybe Moscow proposed that there will be no airstrikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime with the missiles or Air Force. I don't know. Maybe behind the closed doors there was such agreement, and the Western so-called partners of Russian leaders, leak the information to Bloomberg. Maybe, right? But yet again, let's keep in mind that none of the Russian media outlets that I'm monitoring reported about Moscow's intention to impose a partial ceasefire on the line of contact, as basically it was demanded by Washington, right? Although there is a bit difference, Washington is demanding complete ceasefire, right? And Zelensky, who is basically emboldened big time by active support of globalists and globalist-controlled regimes all over the Western world, is making these bold statements that, well, he don't cares about partial ceasefire. He demands complete ceasefire. I don't know what is going to happen. Let's see, by the way, maybe during the day we will learn some more on the matter, and of course I will share additional information if available on my Telegram and Twitter X page or the next in the next updates. And dear friends, before I continue with the next additional news, and there is quite a lot really left to unpack. Let me just highlight once again that this project, this independent media project from Russia, is completely subscriber funded. That is fully independent and exists only as long as I have your support or community support. And if you like my work, if you want to support, you can do it through several means. You can donate to this project with the PayPal platform or Boosty platform. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or the Boosty page, where I have quite a lot of extra content on a regular basis. You can use crypto for support, and during the live streams, dear friends, you can use super chat feature on Rumble, on my Rumble page. I'm streaming simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble, so during the streams you can use super chat feature on Rumble and donate that way, or become a premium subscriber on Rumble. All the links, all their addresses are on this video in the description box, and will be in a pinned comment after this stream ends. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Of course, many thanks to everybody who already helped and continues to support to maintain this project alive. Truly grateful. Thank you. Let's continue, dear friends, with some more news now. And next is this report from Trump that, well, he imposed additional 25% tariffs on India, as he himself stated in a short video that I showed you earlier. So it's 50% tariffs now on Indian goods, not all Indian goods, but on majority Indian goods. And I remind you, dear friends, that for India, US is a main trade partner when it comes to Indian exports, right? So this is a big deal, and obviously New Delhi is upset due to this tremendous hostility from White House, from Trump himself. And we have a statement from India's foreign ministry Let me give you some details on that. So the United States has in recent days targeted India's oil imports from Russia. We have already made clear our position on this issue, including the fact that our imports are based on market factors and done with the overall objective of ensuring the energy security of 1.4 billion people of India. It is therefore extremely unfortunate that US should choose to impose additional tariffs on India for actions that several other countries are also taking in their own national interests. We reiterate that these actions are unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. India will take all actions necessary to protect its national interests. This is a statement, official statement of Ministry of External Affairs or the Foreign Ministry of India, and still, by the way, very diplomatic, very calm, I will say, and very diplomatic statement from Indian Foreign Ministry. One would expect more tougher words to be chosen for this statement, but no, Indian Foreign Ministry usually is extremely diplomatic, as one would expect, by the way. After all, India diplomacy is led by legendary Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar. So it is quite understandable, but nevertheless, that it is a diplomatic statement, but nevertheless quite precise, right, and strong. Also, dear friends, on the topic of India, I have this report that India and Russia have signed the protocol on deepening industrial and technological cooperation, which means that Russia and India will further deepen their ties in economical, political, military, and every possible sphere, by the way, including energy sectors. And I mentioned yesterday during the second updates that there are some speculations on the internet that India might ask Russian side for some discount, for some significant discount even, when it comes to oil sales. And if we keep in mind that relationships between Russia and India are extremely important, this high-level relationships for both countries. So we see India as a strategical partner. India sees Russia as a strategical partner. So therefore, I would not be surprised at all if Moscow will see this potential demand from Indian side. Yet again, this is alleged reports, by the way, about this claim. Not alleged reports, but this is speculations about alleged demand from India. Russian side may actually take this demand with understanding, and India might actually receive some very sufficient discount when it comes to oil trade. That will compensate at least partially losses for India due to US tariffs. So it will make sense for sure. That's how strategical partners should treat each other, right? And on top of the topic of cooperation between Russia and India, let me give you this report that Russian President Vladimir Putin meet India's national security advisor after Trump threatened New Delhi with their choking 50% tariffs for buying Russian oil. And so, by the way, relationships between Moscow and New Delhi are further on their trajectory of further deepening. Russian president plans to visit India in shorter time. And also, one should keep in mind that India's foreign minister, Jaishankar, will visit Moscow in upcoming days. So some very significant developments are taking place in relationships between Russia and India towards the positive side, I will say, right? And well, let's see how will situation develop in this regards. But what is most important, by the way, India is not bowing down to nobody, right? To nobody. India is a major superpower in this world, and US will learn it now hard way. US leadership should know it and should treat India as such, as a major superpower in this world, by the way. But unfortunately, Trump decided to treat India as if this country is some banana republic, and he will regret that shortly. I'm quite sure about it. And also, by the way, on the topic of improved relationships between or further deepening of the ties between India and BRICS member states, not just Russia, but other BRICS member states, I have this report for you that Well, rapprochement, by the way, is gaining momentum between India and China on the backdrop of this tremendous hostility that India is experiencing from the collective West, first of all from the US. So reports are that Indian Prime Minister is visiting China for the first time in 7 years on August 31st for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Moreover, all this is happening against the backdrop, as already said, of this tremendous pressure from the West, and also on the backdrop of some border tensions that was happening and still continues to exist between China and India, right? But nevertheless, Beijing and New Delhi are overcoming whatever differences they have in regard to some difficult topics, and are tightening their relationships, right? Improving their relationships, and this is a big deal, by the way. This is a big deal. I said many times before that both countries, India and China, are strategic partners of the Russian Federation, key members of the BRICS and the emerging multipolar world, and they have to just, for sake of humanity, they have to overcome whatever differences they have, right? And seems like situation is moving exactly in that trajectory, right? Which is great information, by the way. So let's continue with some more news now. And well, I'm gonna give you a short video of Marco Rubio, by the way, head of U.S. State Department. And I think you will find his statements somewhat funny and at the same time frustrating, because it seems like only now, U.S. leadership did understood what was the Russian demands when it comes to achieving de-escalation in terms of Ukrainian crisis. Russian leadership was very clear for so many years, by the way, right? What Russian demands are. Russian president was very clear on the matter, isn't it? After all, on 14th of June 2024, when he had a meeting with the leadership of foreign ministry, he went to detailed basically roadmap that Russia sees as realistic to achieve a sustainable peace, right? But nevertheless, only now, for whatever reasons, Rubio is saying that, well, now they understand a little better or know better. I mean, these people are incompetent, by the way. I mean, these people are incompetent on a whole new level, right? How you can say this, man? Have some self-respect, for God's sake. How you can publicly say that you only now understood stuff that Russian leadership was saying for the last 3 freaking years, man? Are you idiot? That's what you're saying, right? That you are so unhinged and so intellectually poorly prepared that it took you 3 freaking years plus to understand some quite simple stuff, right? Just to read it, for God's sake, on a paper and understand it. Anyways, dear friends, let me give you a video, and you tell me what you will make of this statement of Rubio.
Understanding of the conditions under which Russia would be prepared to end the war. We now have to compare that to what the Ukrainians and our European allies, but the Ukrainians primarily, of course, are willing to accept. And what you try to see is how far can you get these two positions closer? How can you get these two positions closer to each other? If we can get what the Ukrainians will accept and what the Russians will accept close enough, then I think there's the opportunity for the president to have a meeting that includes both Putin and Zelensky to try to close this thing out. So we got to get closer in that regard. But I think for the first time, perhaps since this administration began, we have some concrete examples of the kinds of things that Russia would ask for in order to end the war. We haven't had much of that to this point. Obviously, the Ukrainians have a say in this. We got to bring the two sides and the two positions close enough so that, you know, the ultimate closer, President Trump, can get involved and make it happen.
I mean, I don't know what is wrong with this these people, by the way, that are in charge of U.S. And how this is even possible that they are saying that only now they understand what Russia's conditions are, when Russian position is very clear for so many time, since the beginning of special military operation, basically. And after all, Russian president himself, by the way, on several occasions, including in July last year, during his meeting with the foreign ministry, went to describe details even of the roadmap that Russia sees as a feasible and realistic to reach concrete de-escalation. Not just a ceasefire, not just temporary ceasefire, but complete resolution of the conflict, right? And I remind you, by the way, what these requests from Russian side are. Acknowledgement of Russian jurisdiction over the new regions from Crimea to DPR and LPR, withdrawal of Kiev regime's forces from areas of these new regions that they have their presence, and after that, Russian side was very much open to begin meaningful talks with the Kiev regime, right? Obviously, terms are neutrality. This demand has not gone away, and of course, Russian speakers on Kiev controlled territory have to be protected, their rights, and rights of ethnic and religious minorities in general, right? That was basic demands, basically, from Russian side. And somehow Marco Rubio is saying that they only now understand what Russia wants. I mean, how, for God's sake? Are you freaking idiots or what? What is wrong with you? Russian position has not changed, by the way, right? Anyways, dear friends, I would love to be optimistic, by the way. I would love to believe that, well, these relatively optimistic statements from US that we see today in regards to Ukrainian crisis, in regards to this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, will resolve into true de-escalation. But unfortunately, I am skeptical of that. I have no trust in anybody that represents leadership of collective Western countries, and I don't think you do. You know, they just simply didn't deserve either respect or the trust. It is what it is, right? And unfortunately, I'm expecting not de-escalation now, but I'm expecting unprecedented scale of escalation that West gonna start in next several hours, several days, after which Moscow will have no option to retaliate and retaliate harder, not just on their military and logistical infrastructure or the military assets of the Kiev regime, but also on the military assets of their NATO countries that will be engaged directly in this next phase of escalation with Russia. And only after that, when globalists, when Western ruling class, call them globalists, neocons, or whatever, only after that, Western ruling class will realize, I think, that they actually have lost this proxy war against Russia, and they can no longer continue escalation. Otherwise, they will provoke full-scale nuclear exchange. Once they will come to that realization, they will begin de-escalating, I guess. But right now, they are not in that place yet, right? And because they have no reverse gear, they will continue to escalate. And therefore, I'm 100% convinced, by the way, that all these talks from the West is just a deception, part of deception operation. I would love to be wrong, by the way, on that. I love to see through the escalation. I want to see end of this conflict. But we have to be realistic, right? We have to be realistic. Our hopes are good, but we cannot rely on our hopes solely, right? We have to be realistic. Hello, everyone. I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies. Or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.